Hey guys, this is my first and probably only video for now, so I don't expect to get much attention, but I wanted to talk a bit about Monokuma versus Korosensei as a sort of way to promote it for the upcoming Death Battle Tournament of Champions. So to start off, a few connections for both characters. So Monokuma is a robotic bear who poses as the headmaster of a prestigious school for ultimate students known as Hope's Peak. His goal is to take these elite students and push them into murdering each other to break their spirits and spread despair. Now, as for Korosensei, he is a mutated elite assassin who takes the role of a teacher in an isolated and shunned class of students whom no one has hopes for. They are tasked with killing him as the year progresses, and in the meantime, he teaches them and tries to lift them up to be more than what everyone thinks they are, by actually taking time to get to know them and encourage them. So that's the gist of it, and as you may have noticed, in terms of connections, they are basically opposites of each other. But I think this is one of those matchups where the contrast between the characters appeals the most to me. Sort of the same way that Dio vs Alucard was a battle of opposites. You have Monokuma, who takes pleasure in tormenting the ultimate students by knocking them down to their lowest point, with the goal of making them kill each other. As for Korosensei, he helps a group of low-class students and actually tries to lift them up, while their goal is to kill him. Both are nearly complete opposites of each other, which I think makes the matchup very interesting. The visuals and style is also a big plus. Danganronpa's designs are generally more exaggerated, but Korosensei would go well with Monokuma's design. Another factor that appeals to me is the combat potential. Monokuma makes use of several gadgets and has robotic features, while Korosensei relies on his speed and odd bodily functions. Some potential moments could be Monokuma using gadgets like baseball or killer wasp robots, only for Korosensei to dodge them with his speed. Korosensei could also try to mock Monokuma with his afterimages, only for Monokuma to show that he can do the same. This could lead into a cool scene where their afterimages fight each other. Another potential could both, be fighting while flying in mid-air and leave flight marks that form the picture of their faces, like in Korosensei's song. One side could be Monokuma's and the other Korosensei's. Korosensei could also use his speed to dismantle and reassemble Monokuma's weapons and use them against him. Maybe disarm Monokuma's spare bodies and use their self-destruct bombs on him or things like that. Both could engage in back and forth of hitting baseballs at each other. These are just some ideas, of course. Another appeal for me is the interactions, obviously. Both have very cheery and witty attitudes. Monokuma's is more on the sadistic side, but I think the dialogue between the two could be great as they try to one-up each other during the fight. Especially given their opposing ideals, Korosensei could even manage to get on Monokuma's nerves after healing from an attack. And it goes without saying that the music potential would be fantastic. Danganronpa's music needs no introduction. It is amazing. If you haven't heard it, I encourage you to listen to the OST. As for Assassination Classroom, it also has a wide range of music, but I think where it really shines is in the openings. They have so much energy that really meshes well with Danganronpa's music. And regardless of who wins, it would be fun to implement a track inspired by the execution theme near the end of the fight. And I want to quickly go over some of the advantages or disadvantages between them, which, keep in mind, I'm not an expert researcher, so take it with a grain of salt. So from what I gather, Monokuma's AI brain or whatever, it's a lot faster than Korosensei's, I believe. I don't remember the exact calculation I saw, but from what I gather, it's very fast. Not to mention he has a wider range of weapons at his disposal, while Korosensei's is very limited. And he has the advantage in numbers with his spare body parts, which I think would make for a cool, one man versus a whole army kind of thing. But as for Korosensei, he has his speed, which, from what I've read, Monokuma is also on the same speed-wise, maybe even a bit faster, but Korosensei has a better use of it. He uses more consistently, while Monokuma mostly relies on using his weapons for any sort of combat. And of course, his flight also gives him better mobility compared to Monokuma, and his, odd DNA or whatever, his odd body keeps him from being put down by regular methods like a lot of Monokuma's weapons. Which isn't to say that he's completely invulnerable, since Monokuma could potentially just overpower him and obliterate him with one of his weapons, but it does make it a bit harder to put him down. So these are just some things I find appealing about this fight. But why am I making this video? Well, because I feel this is one of those matchups that can only happen through the Tournament of Champions. Out of the other winners, I think this is a matchup that has the least chance of happening on its own. The others I feel could happen eventually, even if they don't win. So Gru versus Megamind are properties of Illumination and DreamWorks, big names in the animation, regardless of how you feel about Illumination films. Wile E. Coyote versus Tom, they're both widely recognized and iconic cartoon characters. Kratos vs. Asura is kind of iffy, but no doubt Kratos is widely known and carries a huge appeal, given the success of the God of War franchise and especially the two recent games. Sailor Moon vs. Madoka is debatable since although Usagi is arguably the most iconic female anime character and the most iconic magical girl for sure, I don't think she has quite the pull as the other characters, so I do think this matchup is on the same boat as Monokuma vs. Korosensei. Optimus vs. X I think is a safe bet given the popularity of Transformers and the Mega Man franchise still being very recognized and beloved. I think the only other matchup that wouldn't happen if it doesn't win is Sans vs. Judge, even if Undertale is still a widely recognized and popular game, and especially Sans. And I'm not saying this to discourage people from voting for the other matches. You should vote for what you want. I just want to make that very clear. I'm just listing one of the reasons why I'm pushing so hard for this matchup myself. So this is not a perfect video, and I apologize for the audio quality, but this is just me gushing a bit over a matchup I really like and would love to see happen. I hope I managed to get some appeal for it, but either way, I appreciate your attention. I'm honestly just happy it got acknowledged and managed to, get this far in the tournament, so even if it doesn't win, since it has very tough competition. I mean, Gru vs. Megamind alone has a lot of backing, but I've been surprised before. I mean, I was able to beat Luz vs. An despite that matchup getting huge support on Death Battle's Twitter. So hopefully I can get surprised again. Until then, thanks for your time. See you guys.